Right, I'm going to do a boo. That's what I'm going to do. Today I think I'll do a video asking, rather than talking about drug experiences, and also doing a bit of talking, about what kind of friend you would like, or what kind of traits or interests you look for in a friend. I just want to know that because I have a weird interest in people, and I like to learn partly what makes people tick, and what people find to be a likeable characteristic. I'd like to find out what the main likeable characteristics are in other people, essentially, and in other people's opinions. So anyways, I guess it's only fair for me to say, I don't know, I guess what I like in people, or what I would want from a friend. So, primarily from other people, I think the most important thing to having a friend is to have a friend that wants to have a friend, as daft as that sounds. Like, I don't want to meet people who are half-assed about whether they want to make new friends, or we don't click and they just talk to me as an associate, and I know them for years and years and years, and we're still just associates. We've never really properly bonded intimately, or we're not real friends. I like my actual friends to be close to me. I like having interpersonal associates that are friends, I guess. Well, yeah, they are friends, but they're not like really close friends. So I prefer to have a really close friend than I would to have a less personal friend, I guess is what I'm saying. It's a hard question for me to answer, just because for me I feel like it's more about what kind of mood I'm in as to what kind of person I want to be around. Like, right now, for example, I'm in a fairly depressive state of mind, and I don't really want people around who are loud and obnoxious and life of the party. Not because I have a problem with them overall, but because right now I feel like I'd start arguments with them or be too cynical, and I'd find the conversations we have to annoy me and probably annoy them. Right now, I would like a friend or friends who are extremely cynical about the world, hate humanity, and think that everything's just ridiculous, to be honest. But this is just the phase I'm in. I like to have friends who have similar interests to me, but it's not really a requirement. Like, sometimes it's good to have friends who don't have similar interests to you at all, just because rather than having an experience of, oh yes, we have the same interests, we have common ground to talk about, this is good, we can do things. It's fun because you're exploring another person, and because you have no common interests, you have to learn about each other's interests and learn why someone's interested, and be interested in them and have them be interested in you in response, and make a mutual interest together. I find that journey to be quite fun, and because you're doing it together for the first time kind of thing, like it's a new thing, I find it to be quite a good emotionally bonding thing. I find people you have absolutely no interest with, rather than having an experience of sort of things that you know so much about and you can just relate all the time, it's more like, rather than relating on an intellectual and ideological level, you're kind of relating to them on a purely human level. Like, for example, you see someone drop like a ton of food in a restaurant and be embarrassed, and you both laugh, kind of thing. I mean, it can be seen as mutual interest if we get pedantic, but it's more a human experience of, wow, that's a human thing that happened that we both found funny, and it's not a particular interest, it's just, that was a fun thing we did together, kind of thing. Everything's a fun thing we did together. I'll talk about this subject that you know nothing about, and you'll just sit there and nod at me for a while, and I know you know nothing about this subject, only really vague bits of this subject, but you're still going to be there and listen and find it interesting, even though you have no idea what the fuck I'm talking about, because we're just attempting at communicating. And I find you get a lot more body language, and that when you do come to like hug and stuff, or you do come to have very, very borderline mutual interests, there's not a feeling of relief as such, more a feeling of like just gladness, like because you don't have any mutual interests really. You're kind of like, yeah, that was cool. We just bonded, man, and we have nothing in common except being people. This is a fucking awesome experience. So that's one aspect of things I like. And then on the other hand, I like interacting with people who are basically into all the same shit as I am, just because there's just never an end to the depth of conversation. If your ideologies and like your interests, say your sports activities, or if you're into drugs, or if you're into horses, or whatever the fuck your interest is, you've got volumes and volumes to speak with another person. You can always relate on a deep intellectual level with the other person. There's always an exchange of similar ideas, but because there's an exchange of similar ideas, any new ideas that are related, even if they're semi-related, are ones that you'll want to be involved with or research because it's part of your particular area of interest. So I find that quite nice. And I also find with people who have the exact same interests as you can get involved in so many activities with them, even if you've never met them before. If they have literally all the same interests as you can pretty much just shake hands and make weird in-jokes about the interests you have because you have so much expertise in those areas, essentially. Like, I guess an in-joke with me would be talking about, like, I don't know, I guess if someone came up to me with some DMT, someone who's regularly smoked it, and said something along the lines of, "You seem quite interested," and I just said, "You know I'm going to smoke this with you," and they just laughed. That's like an in-joke because we both understand the experience kind of thing, and because we've both smoked so much DMT that we just don't worry about shit like that anymore. Basically is I guess that's like an example of that understanding. Or say if I was at a party with someone, just a regular party, like a chess club type party, not a hard rave party, and started talking about hard rave and they were interested, we wouldn't even have to name tracks because the tracks don't matter as much as like the feeling of the flow of music and the moving and the dancing, or the watching people dance, even if they just want to watch, because I like to dance. We've got just a thing there, and we can make jokes about being the watcher and the participator kind of thing, and play different sort of social roles through that. Also, with things like drug experiences, a friend of mine called Mr. Tonkin, I won't give you his first name, because if he's watching, he might not want me to do that. We had a lot of similar drug type things and psychedelic type things and rave type things, and I remember he used to come to the area where I was living on his bike from time to time, and he came round on a shit ton of opiates, and I was just talking to him about 2CP, and he was like, "You know, man, I should just do this 2CP and this modafinil with you," and I'm like, "Dude, I don't know, man, you're pretty fucked," and it's like, this is the perfect time to do it. Me understanding the kind of hype he was on, I'm like, you know what, man, I know you can take care of yourself and you can handle this. I know you'll be okay. I've known you for a while now. In my head, I didn't say that to him, and I just kind of looked at him and I was like, let's just fucking ride the unicorn together. And essentially, we went out, went crazy dancing, messed around with the locals kind of thing. We're both into it, like slapped each other around a bit because none of this shit matters to us. We've kind of crossed those boundaries with each other. That shit was kind of cool. And I remember as well, like from time to time, I'd call him up and be like, "There's a fucking rave on, man. You're not doing anything tonight." "Well, I think you'll be coming with me." And I just hang up the phone and just go around. There was no need for, like a yes or no to that. I just knew him so well and just knew his likes and interests that I could just drive down and fucking pick him up and be like, yeah, we're just doing this. So, that's a cool thing about having people with interests. Now, as far as personality traits go, I think mostly I like, when I'm in a good mood or an energetic mood, people who are self-confident, people who are quite arrogant as well, can be fun as long as they're prepared to do active stuff. When I'm in a kind of weird mood, I like arrogant people who like messing around with social phenomena and yeah, just causing anxieties, I guess. Terrible thing to say, but it's kind of true. I like watching them ask really weird, obscure questions of the public and sort of helping them and going around with them in really weird costumes, like rabbit outfits and shit. I remember a friend of mine who is called Braining. I remember I was in town with him at one point, and he just came up to some random person and said, "Excuse me, mate, are you into she-males? Would you fuck a she-male?" Just out of nowhere. 5 minutes later, we go into the shop and both try on some dresses, and then, yeah, about half an hour later, we smashed shit tons of 5ME adult and went around and fucking danced and shit. So that's a pretty fucking good experience there in itself. I also like sometimes when I'm in an inquisitive mood, or when I've got a bit of a naughty streak on, I like finding shy, introverted people, teasing them very slightly about their anxieties, but reassuring them that I care, and just, yeah, like kind of going with their socially anxious vibe, making little jokes about their anxieties, but all the while making sure they fully understand that I don't mean it, and I respect them as a human being, essentially. I quite like that. I think I quite like people who are really optimistic all the time, because no matter how upset you are, even like right now while I'm quite depressed at this period of time, I just love insanely optimistic people. People who are really outgoing and generally optimistic aren't the same as insanely optimistic people. When you meet people who are just optimistic all the time, you just can't help but feeling just a little bit better, because they're just so happy. They don't give a shit how depressed you are, they're just going to be happy. You're going to be happy. Every motherfucker in the room is going to be happy. I quite like that. I guess one type of person I'm not into is the non-socially anxious introverts who are very intellectual. Maybe it's because I'm not very intellectual and I'm a little jealous. I don't think that's the actual reason, though. I think it's more to do with not that I dislike them, more that there's not much I can do with them because they have no desire to communicate with me, and outside of factual information and exchanges of information, there's just not much interaction I can have with them, essentially. So I don't really find that many types, and unless you're really interested in their specific area of interest, it's basically entirely pointless for me, for someone like myself, to meet those kind of people. However, I still respect them, and sometimes they prove me wrong. Like, sometimes I'll see them, because they're not socially anxious but quite introverted, they'll talk to me in quite a serious way about a subject that I'm actually interested in, and they've found that out themselves through their own research, that it's my interest. They're quite thorough people from my personal findings. And as well, because they're so serious and seen as so serious, sometimes when they break that convention, it's not just funny, it's like unfathomably amazing to watch them crack a really crazy joke. So yeah, I can appreciate them still, but they're not like a main demographic of people I socialise with, for obvious reasons on their behalf as well, I guess. So yeah, I guess this nearly concludes the video. I guess I should maybe talk about my top 3 personality traits. So I guess a friend who wants to be a friend is my top personality trait in another person. Second off, optimists over pessimists in general, but it's not a requirement. And third off, I think I like people who are just a little bit weird. Just at least just a little bit. Although I haven't really found that many people who aren't at least just a little bit weird. People just are fucking weird from my experience. So anyway, I'm going to ask you the question once again. What do you look for in a friend? Personality traits, interests, whatever. Just what do you look for in a friend? Okay, thanks for that, and I hope you enjoyed the video.